Hey everyone, I'm Maria from The Pages of Ink, and today I'm going to be reviewing Made You Up by Francesca Zappia. This is a spoiler-free review, so you guys can continue watching through the whole video, and I'm not going to spoil any aspects of the book. This book centers around an 18-year-old girl called Alex, and she has schizophrenia coupled with paranoia. So she's constantly seeing things in her world that don't really exist. And her hallucinations and delusions usually manifest as some form of like a Nazi Germany related thing. So she's really scared of Nazis and she sees these delusions that aren't really there. So in her school building, she imagines men in suits with guns standing on the top as the security guards, but there isn't actually anyone there. And so she lives her life in confusion as to what is actually real and what isn't, and hence the title Made You Up. So she never really has a true grasp on reality. Although I've never met anyone that suffers from schizophrenia or paranoia or that kind of psychotic mental illness, I do believe that the mental illness was portrayed in a respectful manner. It wasn't romanticized and it wasn't idolized as if it was something great. I thought that the book and the author adequately showed the really scary implications that a psychotic disorder can have on a person's life, and it can have on their relationships and their social life. It showed all the aspects that how the mental illness can affect a person's life. So I have heard some people's comments, like I've seen on Goodreads, that the mental illness wasn't shown as it actually is and that it wasn't entirely truthful, and I have no comment upon that because I do not know much about the mental illness apart from like a medical description of symptoms and signs. So I thought it was dealt with in a respectful manner, but I've heard other people say that it wasn't a true representation of schizophrenia. But as a history buff, I really liked the constant references to all these different history things. Alex, our main character, even though she's a girl, is named after Alexander the Great, and she has a sister as well who's Charlemagne, I think that's how you say her name. So her parents are history nerds, and her and another character called Miles, who's kind of another central character in this book, they're both really interested in history, so I really liked all the constant references to all these things that had happened because I like history, and I liked that a big element of this book was history as well. Speaking of Miles, I absolutely adored Miles. He's this secondary character in the book that pops up quite a few times, and he's a pretty central figure. I absolutely loved him. Like, he is such an enigmatic and complex character. I didn't think that he was shallow or anything. He had so many things going on in his brain, but he didn't know how to describe them. And I've heard people say that he might be autistic, although it's not confirmed. But he has all these conflicting emotions in his mind that he can't really express very well. And yeah, so he just doesn't understand emotions, and he is a genius. He literally knows everything. He is the valedictorian of their school, and yeah, he's just really smart, but he can't understand emotions, and he has this really dark past, and I really liked Miles. I thought he was a great character. He was written so well, so beautifully, so interesting to read about him. So yeah, I really liked Miles, maybe even more than our main character Alex, but Alex was still really good, and I really loved their relationship together. The book leaves many things open to interpretation, but I guess that is fitting because it is about schizophrenia and you never really know what is real and what isn't. So our character or protagonist, Alex, is quite an unreliable narrator because to her reality is real, but to other people they don't exist. So she's telling us about all these things that she sees and like any hallucinations she might be having, but we don't know if that's real in that context because for her it's real, but it might not actually exist in that world. Does that make sense? Like, her hallucinations are described as being real in this novel, and so for us it becomes real, and you have this kind of confliction between ideas of like, is this actually happening in the story or is it just her hallucination? So the ending is very vague, but I really loved it, and there are many plot twists in this book. It keeps you on your toes, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought the plot was a bit far-fetched. There are things that go on in this book. There's kind of a side story away from Alex and Miles and Tucker, who's also another supporting character. I don't know, the side plot was okay, but it wasn't really my favorite. I felt like it was just added in there to just I don't know, fill in gaps. I think this novel really importantly highlighted some really important questions to pose to our society. Like, how can a mental illness change a person? How does it affect relationships? How does it affect schooling life? How does it affect our social life? I really enjoyed how it constantly showed that a mental illness does not define a person. Through Alex, we saw that because she didn't let her schizophrenia stop her from doing what she wanted to do. She went out to parties, she made friends, she got a boyfriend. She did all of these things that normal teenagers would do who don't have a psychotic illness, but she just did them in a slightly different way. So I loved that it highlighted that you don't have to be your mental illness, and you can move past that and you can be more than that. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I just sat in my room and read it in like one whole sitting. For a whole day I just sat and read and consumed this book, and I adored it. I think it was gorgeous. I'm giving it 4.25 stars, maybe 4.5 stars. I'm not sure. It's up there though. It's probably one of my favorite contemporaries because I don't read a lot of contemporaries. It's just not really my thing, I guess you could say, but I really like this one and I recommend it for anyone to go out there. Even if you're not interested in schizophrenia, it's just a really enjoyable read. I think the writing style was gorgeous. I think the characters were complex and three-dimensional and really true and honest, and I thought that the plot was a bit odd, but it was interesting, and I think it just poses a lot of really interesting questions that we should aim to think about and talk about in this world. It was unique in a way that I don't think I'm going to be able to describe. You just have to read this book because Alex, the protagonist, has a really interesting voice because of her schizophrenia, and it's really descriptive and vivid and imaginative, and I really enjoyed that. So I don't know if I described this book accurately, but I recommend that everyone goes and reads it because it's just really good. It's pretty decent sized, and I think it's 400 pages or so. You can get through it in a day if you have time for it, but I just recommend this to everyone. It was a really good book, and I'd love to discuss this book with you guys. If you have read this book, then drop me a comment below, tell me what you thought of the ending, tell me what you thought of some of the plot twists, and if you're just interested in reading this book, then let me know as well. Thank you guys for watching this review. You can find me on Goodreads, Tumblr, and Twitter, all at The Pages of Ink, and I'll see you guys in my next review. Bye!